Hey, this is William Floyd, bar none, and you're listening to Matt and Dexter Carter on The Grueling Truth.
Garoppolo, deep down the middle, that's a liftoff. Shanahan and Jimmy, Bill in Montana. Speaking for the Empire, salute from Santana. Yeah, handoff, down the middle. Beast through the D-line and made him look brittle. Out of nowhere, Sherman in the corner. 60 other way, huh? Kings of California. Every breath, tribute to the greatest. Dwight Clark in our heart since the catch when he made it.
As we build, brick by brick, no imitation, just be patient while we reppin' the Niners. We under the 49ers. Who are we? We're the 49ers.
Welcome, everybody, to the 49ers Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. Brought to you by Replenishing Care Technologies, the future in sports medicine. Please check that out at thegruelingtruth.com. I'm your host, Matt Andruscavage, and I'd like to welcome in my co-host for the 49ers Weekly Show, former 49ers running back, Super Bowl 29 champion, Dexter Carter.
Hey, Matt, what a pleasure, man, to get back with you and go over this draft selection that the 49ers had, getting ready for the 2019 season. So it's great to have you, man, with me again.
Oh, it's great to be here. Good to talk to you again. And sometimes in the off season we take some breaks, but we had the NFL draft, and I want to thank Jose Santana for letting us use his song "Brick by Brick." It's a great song for the 49er Empire.
And I want to give Matt a big thumbs up too for going out and connecting with the people that made this song, and it fits what we want to have for 2019. So, hey, everybody who listens to the show, you'll know that the song is a banger, just like I believe it's a banger for this year.
That's right. Make sure you go out to iTunes and go grab that song. So with that, we're going to get right into the 2019 NFL Draft. Last week was a big week. We had a lot of good free agents, I thought. They were able to add some talent to the team, but then it's also nice when you can draft some good young talent coming out of college.
Absolutely. Getting ready for this 2019 season and dealing with this offseason, there was a lot of optimism getting ready, for the 2019 season, with, Garoppolo, progressing the way he is and going out and, as you said, bringing in some additional talent that can help this ball club. And the secondary definitely was an improvement to make this ball club a lot better, because that's where a big need was. And we didn't really need to look there very hard in the draft. But, of course, we're going to say that there was a good draft. But, all the experts have said that, the 49ers had a good, draft class, too, in 2019. So, man, there's a lot of optimism, upbeat about what the 49ers did. And I think, many of us will give them a really good grade. My grade was definitely, in the B plus area.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt as well. I felt like a solid B plus was a fair grade. It's easy for it's if you're a big fan of the team, it's easy to go A, or if you're highly critical, D minus. But right. I think B to B plus is a pretty fair grade. The mindset of Coach Shanahan and John Lynch was maybe a little bit different than a lot of the fans or even a lot of the analysts. But I think the way that they're building the team, I think they made a lot of right moves here. So, we'll get into it. First round pick, second overall pick, Nick Bosa. I mean, this was probably the most obvious pick. What was nice was the front office was not in any way blinking when Arizona got into that staring contest, acting like they were going to draft Bosa and trying to get the 49ers to trade up. They waited till the last second, and then they drafted Kyler Murray. So the 49ers then did the right thing. They waited for offers, listened to offers, let time run out, and then just, when the offer wasn't there that they were looking for, they just drafted the best edge rusher in the country and a guy who instantly makes this pass rush even more formidable than it was.
Well, he is definitely the guy that many people said could have been the top overall pick, and was definitely he was among great defensive ends that was available. He wasn't the only one. It was maybe at least three of them.
For sure.
But he was definitely the general when it comes to who was the best. So the 49ers definitely didn't slip. They definitely didn't falter. They got their right guy. And I think unquestionably he will fit into that system and make Armstead and all those other guys on that defensive line even better, which in essence makes that secondary and that second level linebacking core better too. So I'm looking forward to seeing not whether he'll be successful. Yes, it will be a transition, but what he has, his skill set, man, that's hard to teach. That's hard to come out of college. And with his pedigree, you're talking about his dad, his brother. I think they all were first rounders. I
Yeah.
mean, this is crazy. So why would he fail, in my opinion, when his brother is tearing it up with, the Chargers? His dad, was a first rounder also. So I'm looking forward to how the trajectory of his career starting out great with the 49ers.
Well, the nice thing is you've already got DeForest Buckner, who's been basically, in my opinion, a top 5 defensive tackle since the day he was drafted. He's seen double teams. He, especially the first 2 years, he's been on the field just constantly. The current coaching staff has finally been able to figure out ways to get him some rest, so he's not out there 80, 90 snaps. But now he's not going to be seeing those double teams because they've got D Ford on one side and now Nick Bosa on the other. So what does that mean for Bosa? Bosa's going to be seeing single coverage probably the whole year because DeForest Buckner collapses pockets so well. And with D Ford coming around the edge, who are you going to double? So it's going to really be he's in a really good spot to succeed.
Absolutely. And with Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, with those guys that can throw from the pocket and get out of the pocket, you need somebody like D Ford. You need somebody like Bosa who can control those edges and be those bookends. And then see Buckner and Armstead, those guys now that there's no way they're going to see double teams. If they do, Ford and Bosa is going to tear it up. And that's what we both believe, and many experts believe, that they're going to see single, blocks out there. And there's no way they're going to be able to, I believe, contain Bosa and Ford. And that's going to open up those guys in the middle whenever those quarterbacks step up. So I think it's going to be incredibly exciting what the 49ers can look for. And finally, the secondary, I think because of that pressure that's going to be on the quarterbacks and the collapse of the pocket on the interior, I believe that's going to make that secondary look much, much better than they did in the past. But they're going to look better anyway because they got, new guys in, and they got Sherman, who is still, playing at a high level. So it's going to be really, really exciting if this team can stay healthy.
That's just it. I mean, this defensive line, to me, completely changes this defense because you look at the scheme that they run with Robert Saleh. That's the Seattle scheme. What was that always based on? Look what they had in Seattle: Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, the speed rushers coming off the edge, constantly harassing the quarterback, making it easier for the secondary, where instead of trying to hold your man for 7-8 seconds, now you can take chances. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen with the secondary.
Absolutely. And it's going to cause a lot more turnovers than the 49ers have had in the past few years. And when you get that ball to Garoppolo and that offense, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and the new addition of Tevin there in that backfield.
Oh, man.
Hey, McKinnon, Breida, it is going to be interesting. And that offensive line that we had talked about, not to jump from the defensive side, but just to hit it right quick, is that offensive line that we've talked about for a few years. Man, that offensive line's got to get better. They've got to develop. They've got to get new talent in. That offensive line did their thing last year. Now you see just it coming full circle now, with the quarterback, the running backs, and we'll talk about, the receivers here shortly. But, man, it is something to be excited about. Again, if this team stays healthy, I really think a lot of these young guys, even the draft picks, are going to be they're going to be dependent on early and often. And if everything pans out, the NFC West is competitive, but the 49ers, they can find their place in it.
I think what this roster, when you start to look at when Shanahan and Lynch got here, and the way they started totally changing the roster to where it is now, it is remarkable what they've done in just a couple of years. I mean, I realize the win totals haven't been there. I really believe most of it's due to the injuries. I don't want to just, make excuses, but man, it's tough to play with a third string quarterback. So I really believe what you're saying with if Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy and the skill guys that they brought in are healthy and this front seven is healthy, they're highly competitive. And now moving on to the second round, what did they get with the 36th overall pick? They brought in Deebo Samuel. Oh, man, this is a fantastic pick when you consider Kyle Shanahan's scheme. He's got incredible football speed. He runs routes well, and he racks up the yak, which because that stat was created for your teammate, the greatest wide receiver ever, Jerry Rice.
Absolutely. And you know what this draft pick gives us or gives the 49ers? I mean, the guy runs Chris routes and is a much-needed asset for Garoppolo because, there was times early on that he struggled to find open receivers, in the 3 games that he did.
Yep.
He played last season before he got injured. Now I believe that's not going to be an issue. And you mentioned something earlier with the injuries and playing with a third string quarterback. Well, the one positive thing that came out of that is that we found the talent in our third string quarterback.
For sure.
The guy showed that he can ball. And again, I have to admit, as I did last year, I didn't even know the guy was on the roster. But I tell you what, I won't forget it again. And so that really helped us find, and I say, maybe not even the third string quarterback. I mean, this guy can compete for the second team, the second string job. But
no doubt. Nick Mullins is the second quarterback. There's no question.
Absolutely. So this team is a stronger team because of that. Now you got Samuel coming in along with the returning guys to go with the talent and the threat of what these running backs bring to the table. Oh man, this is going to be exciting. With that defense developing, with the new players that they've got and, with the possibility of many, many more turnovers to get Garoppolo and that offense more opportunities to score. And Kyle Shanahan, again, he was one of the, I think he may have led the league in scoring, 30 plus points or 20 plus points. I believe it was 30 plus points, and if he can do that in the NFC West, yes, Seattle, Russell Wilson, they're going to be a challenge, even though they're not what they were. But Russell Wilson is still who he was and who he is. So that's going to be a challenge, to come out of the West. But I believe that they've got the right guys in place. And Shanahan and Lynch, they've been doing this since they've been there. They are great evaluators of talent, and they're bringing the right people in. And it was no different than this year with this draft and this offseason free agency pool of the guys that they brought in. So they're continuing to do exactly what they wanted to do and what they've done from the beginning. So I think we're closer to, beating Seattle or consistently having the opportunity to win the NFC West than we were. So again, this team and these fans have something to be excited about.
So, you think about what Deebo Samuel brings to the table. We talked about his football speed. We talked about his route running. But what I like about him is he plays a lot bigger than he is. He's really hard to bring down. He's not afraid to go over the middle. And I like him in the red zone because his specialty is the slant. And it just if he gets the inside at all, you can forget about it. And that's huge inside the red zone. And then one of the things I read was he's got like this fearless trait of a kick returner. And I think you know something about that.
That's right. Absolutely. And to bring that thought process, to the receiving position whether you're in the slot or the split, and they can know you're running a slant, but they got to respect the move to get the slant open. And if they don't respect it, he's got the ability. He's going to just go around them outside. And there's so much, of route running in the passing tree that this young man here, as you said, he plays bigger than what he is. I mean, he's just not a slant guy. This guy here will get open, and he will make you respect every aspect of his game.
Definitely. So you've got Samuel on one side and Dante Pettis on the other, who does so many good things before and after the catch with his route running, his ability to create separation. Then you've got Marquise Goodwin, who can blow the top off of defense, and he runs really good routes. Plus George Kittle, who had the best tight end of any season ever last year. So
absolutely.
The receivers are just there's just so many good things to see here.
Absolutely. And those three that you mentioned, before the season ends, everybody's going to be talking about them, possibly. And I say it might be them and Cleveland that might be vying for who has a top three receiving core in the league. And the 49ers have that chance. I know Cleveland is in another conference and division, but man, I love what they did during this offseason. But nonetheless, from their receiving core, I think the 49ers are in that level or have the possibility to be up there with them.
Certainly. I mean, there's just so much talent at receiver. It's going to be tough to see some of the guys that they're going to have to release because Trent Taylor's healthy, and he's fantastic in the slot. You got Kendrick Bourne, who's played pretty well the last 2 years. Richie James, 7th round pick. I mean, he might not make it, but I mean, that's a good player. And they brought Jordan Matthews in on a 1-year prove it deal. And he's still got a little gas in the tank. So they've really got a lot of good guys in this core.
And we haven't even mentioned Jalen Hurd.
Exactly, 3rd round pick.
Coming in, who I believe, I just don't see him not making the team. I think
he'll make the team.
He's such an asset, and what he brings, his versatility to this team is going to be incredible and off the chain. So, but one thing is, yes, there will be some guys that that will get cut, but they're auditioning for other teams because they're good, and they will be brought on to another team. But having them on the roster in training camp is going to make this receiving core incredible because of the competition on a daily basis. And you know how it is when you're competing, it makes everybody better.
That's right. Competition is good for everybody. So I'm glad that they're loaded at position. It's a good problem to have.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned Jalen Hurd, 3rd round pick out of Baylor. Jalen Hurd, he's a very versatile player. They're already kind of calling him the Swiss Army knife, kind of like the way Delaney Walker was, but this is going to be even different than what Delaney Walker was as that H-back in Jim Harbaugh's scheme.
Right.
Many analysts and fans wanted the Niners right here in the 3rd round to take a corner or a safety. The mindset of the front office at this point was, look, we're not going to take a cornerback early. They invested a 3rd round pick in Ahkello Witherspoon. It's not time to give up on him, especially with his size. Right. You invested another 3rd round pick into Tavarius Moore. We haven't really seen him play. They believe they're both going to improve this year. And to kind of give this unit a little insurance, they added Jason Verrett, where when he's healthy, he's fantastic. Now, I know, of course, he has not been healthy very well, but this is why it's a 1-year prove-it deal. These are the kind of guys you take chances on.
Absolutely. And the thing is he's coming in. He feels he's healthy now. Mm-hmm. And when healthy, it was unquestionable that one where he was picked in the draft was warranted out of TCU. Very good corner, could play man, could bump and run. I mean, this guy, you know what? I'm pulling for him to stay healthy.
Me too.
And I just don't see him being injury plagued his entire career. I think he fell, into the lap of the 49ers. I think we got a gift, and I'm really wishing him the best to stay healthy, because if he does, man, that in itself along with Witherspoon and Sherman, man, their secondary is going to get better real fast.
Especially with the added pressure up front. So, and then they kept Kawan Williams in the slot. So I feel like they're pretty deep at corner. Granted, they got to be healthy. So then what do you do then in the third round? They were talking about how their mindset was, we're looking at 2 receivers because they really want to make this receiving core great. So they found Jalen Hurd. Now look at his size. He's 6'5", 225. He's a running back converted to wide receiver who also plays tight end. When have we ever heard of a player like that?
And not a linky old, just not a very good running back. This guy, I remember him at Tennessee. He was exceptional. He is a really good running back.
Yes.
And then, when he transferred, who would have thought to be smart enough to, and I'm sure it was him, and I'm sure it was the coaches too. Because when you looked at him play at Baylor, he was a running back. He was at receiver. He was whatever they needed. His versatility is so valuable to the 49ers. And Shanahan is going to play with the things that he can do with him. So teams can't scout him right now, because I really think Shanahan's going to take it to another whole level. Moving this kid around, putting him, in different positions, and he is going to excel because, one, he has the size, athleticism, and the ability to do all Shanahan is going to ask of him to do, which is going to open things up for those other skilled, talented guys on this offense at receiver and at running back.
Now, granted, we can't have all of these skill players on the field at the exact same time, but look at
a break.
Right. But look at the different pieces that they can do. You've got 3 guys that can play running back at a very high level. Even Raheem Mostert was explosive last year. You got Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, and Matt Breida. And now you bring in Jalen Hurd, who's at 6'5". He's kind of one of those long striders, but he's quick. And you watch film on him, the guy is an effective runner. So you could bring any of those guys in, and all of them can catch. We saw Hurd play wide receiver. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. They lined him up at tight end. You put him anywhere on the field, you don't know what he's going to do. And McKinnon and Coleman are kind of like that. You could potentially line them up in the slot. And the fact that they're looking at keeping all 3, Coleman, McKinnon, and Breida, don't be surprised to see Coleman or McKinnon, even Breida, line up in the slot where 2 or 3 of those guys are on the field at the same time. And then you put Hurd in there. You don't know what is going to happen. How are you going to plan for this?
Absolutely. And those 3 running backs that you mentioned, I am pulling for every one of them to make it because they are extremely talented, and there's a place for them on this team. You take those 3, as you said, and Hurd, that's a straight up mix match.
Oh man!
All day
6'5".
That's dangerous.
6'5" running back. This is okay. This is when I saw that they drafted Hurd and he was a converted running back. I'll be honest. I didn't really see how they were going to use him until I started reading a little bit more and I started watching some footage. And because he's tall, he's got length, but he's also pretty strong and tough. Right. He reminds me of what the Patriots were doing last year with Cordarrelle Patterson. Big guy, fast, but they were lining him up in the backfield. And they're running with him. And he's kind of a problem in 3rd and 1.
That's exactly That's exactly what they're going to do with Hurd. Except Hurd is a skilled, trained running back.
Yes. And the fact that you could put him in at tight end in the red zone, I'm going to tell you what I think they're going to be able to do with him. They're going to keep George Kittle, obviously. There's no chance of him getting cut.
Yeah.
I see Garrett Selleck probably not making it. They drafted a tight end who will probably become the 2 tight end. I think Jalen Hurd is going to be listed on the 53 as the 3rd tight end and allow them to keep another one of those talented wide receiver. They'll just keep him on the roster as a tight end. But you can literally use him anywhere.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a very good point you just made, and that's a great strategy for Shanahan to do also.
Because you could keep 6 wide receivers, but Hurd doesn't have to be one of them if he's listed as a tight end. So that's just gives you another opportunity to keep like a Richie James or, a Kendrick Bourne or even a Jordan Matthews. So his versatility just adds so much.
Yeah, and see, you know what? That's a conversation coaches don't usually have with players. But see, what you just explained on how they could use him and how that creates another slot at a different position, which is the receiver's position. If Hurd, who is a running back, oh, he's a wide receiver, oh, man, he can be a tight end, but it changes your numbers. And when receivers understand that, now they're going to work hard because they're trying to earn a job and a position on this team. But I would like to know that because that's an extra position. Because we named the ones earlier that we know are going to make it. I mean, those receivers. But when you know there's another position because of what Hurd's versatility brings to the table, oh man, I got to go get that position. I mean, it just gives me a little bit more, ump to my performance.
That's just it. That's how I'm looking at this, because there's a number of guys on there that you could easily look at it and go, well, I'm kind of battling to show what I can do to catch on with another team, or maybe I'm one of the undrafted guys that I'm going to try to make it on the practice squad. This really gives a little bit more hope to make the 53, and that's going to increase the competition even more.
Absolutely, and that's the direction that I was going with it. So it's going to make for a very, very interesting situation, but a positive situation.
Definitely. So then came the kind of the head scratcher of the draft. 4th round, the Niners made a fantastic trade to trade with Cincinnati. They moved down 6 spots, but they gain a 5th round. I think they gained a 5th round and a 6th round to just move down 6 spots with Cincinnati. Cincinnati traded up so they could draft a quarterback, and Deontay Thompson, the safety who kind of slid. The number of the safeties slid in this draft, but Deontay Thompson was there. I felt at that point he's the best safety available, and I'm thinking, all right, there it is. They're going to upgrade their safety core and draft him, and all of a sudden I read drafted a punter.
Right.
Without looking at the situation, when you see punter in the 4th round, it's very hard. That was very hard for people to get excited about.
That is true, and I mean, punter, kicker. Oh, really? I mean, we can go back to. I know he's not a 1st round, kicker, but. You can go back to Janikowski when he went in the 1st round out of Florida State. Now, nobody questioned that, but normally, no matter how good a kicker is, whether he win the Groza Award or not, man, 1st round, that doesn't make sense. Well, what makes this selection, what makes sense to me is when you think about it, one, he won the Ray Guy Award.
Yes, he did.
He's the best punter in the country. He was a 3-time finalist for that award, which means, man, freshman, sophomore, junior year, he was finalist. Then he won it. So he's a proven winner. Secondly, you can win and lose the game from the kicking game. When you've got a kicker, you're trying to build the defense. Your first pick was Bosa, who, you drafted him for a reason. To be the bookend, we've already talked about, what he's going to, help that defense, continue to become. Well, now you got a punter that can nail the ball, put the opposing offense deep in their territory. Now they've got to go 90 yards. You know what? Yeah, it seemed weird, 4th round, but it makes sense when you think about the strategy of what they're doing. So I'm excited about it. When we talked about it earlier, I was, but the more I think about it, it's like, my steak, how I marinated, and it just get better and better with time. Well, that's the way I'm looking at this selection of the punter, because, man, they were thinking beyond what we were thinking, and it's a great selection. Now, could they have waited a little while? It depends on whether someone else was looking for the same thing the 49ers were looking for. But do you take a chance and lose this guy, I mean, the guy you got, you see what happened. They drafted him. What did they do shortly thereafter? They released the other guy. It was the easiest choice. So they had to do it what they thought was going to better this team. And I haven't, again, I said it once earlier, I have yet to doubt Lynch and Shanahan in their decision making in 3-4 years. And I'm not going to start doing it now. I think he was a great selection.
Yeah, this is the thing about here's the positive about punter Mitch Wishnowsky. I believe he's from Australia, or he's at least Aussie, from what I know.
Yeah. I'm gonna just call him Wish.
Right, that works. So they feel his ability to pin teams back, and also his athleticism for fakes will benefit the team. He was no doubt the number one punter in the nation, and this was a pretty cool stat. His last 106 punts, there's only 100 total return yards. Wow. That's what you want out of a punter. And and the truth is they needed a punter. Now, they said that they felt that he was going to get taken. We saw the Patriots take a punter. Because this guy's talent level at the position is pretty high, they felt like they weren't going to be able to get him. And like you said, games can be won and lost on field position. If you can flip the field on the team, like the Niners had Andy Lee back, I think they drafted him in like 2003, and he was there until 2014, I believe. And consistently, game after game, whenever they needed something, he pinned teams back no matter what the situation. I saw him do it in the NFC Championship game the year they went to the Super Bowl in 2012. They feel that's what Wish can do. If you can flip the field on a team, that's a huge benefit. So hopefully he will be what they're hoping for.
Absolutely. For many, many years, he's going to be really exciting to the 49er fans. Very exciting.
I want to see fakes. I saw him. I was watching some footage on him, and the guy he's got some athleticism for a punter. So I'm hoping that they have a plan for him, and that there's a reason why they drafted him so high. So I understand the corner rationale. I think I would have liked Deontay Thompson over a punter in this situation if I'm just from my rationale. But they seem to like their young safeties. They feel that if healthy, Adrian Colbert, Jaquiski Tart, and even Jimmy Ward, who I know everyone's got doubts about Jimmy Ward. I'm still really surprised he made that they want to bring him back and everything like that. But you know what? If the safeties step up the way that the management feels that they can, this is a complete roster. Right now, to me, safety is the biggest question mark, and then probably cornerback. So obviously, we can understand why fans, analysts would go, this is really odd that they would pass on corners and safeties here. I can understand that. I'm looking at the rationale of the front office. They feel they've got the young talent, and so why not, go get the best punter in the nation, which is a need as well. It's it's hard when you're not in the front office making these decisions, doing all the analysis that they're doing. So like you said, I at this point, there's no reason to sit back and doubt what they're doing and how they're putting this roster together. So I'm going to give this a chance. Moving on to the next round, in the fifth round, because they didn't have a fifth round pick. They were able to acquire that in the trade to move down with Cincinnati. That gave them a fifth round pick, and they got linebacker Drake Greenlaw. Now, the thing that they like about him, the scouting reports say, first of all, in his first year, he's going to excel on special teams. He looks like a guy and that's what you want. I mean, this is what the Patriots do. They draft a lot of players. They don't really contribute much in their first year except on special teams. And then all of a sudden, when they start to move on from superstars as they get older, all of a sudden they bring in these young guys that have been on their roster 2 and 3 years, and they're ready to step up. That's what I see Dre Greenlaw being, a guy who's going to be good on special teams, but he'll compete at the Sam spot, the Will spot. He had in over 4 seasons, he had 321 tackles, 13 of them for loss, 4 sacks, and 3 picks. Looks like a solid linebacker to compete at those Will and Sam spots, but I like him on special teams for the first year.
Yeah, You don't want to be pessimistic about a player, but what we can say with a great amount of certainty is, the kid's probably not going to start. So if he gets in there and he battles, part of what will help him make this team, one, and be a backup linebacker is his special teams play. We all know special teams players can stay in the league for 15 years if you're good at what you do.
Right.
And if he is what it looks like he has been in college, the kid's going to give you all he's got on special teams. And he'll end up making this team because of special teams, but he'll end up being a valuable asset in that backup linebacker position, possibly more than one linebacker position.
Yeah, it looks like he can play a couple of different positions. So you need that depth, and that's what you want to get out of a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick. Most of those guys are going to be backups and special teams players. And so if you can get production out of your 5th, 6th, 7th round every year, that's really valuable. So you're not wasting those draft picks.
Absolutely. No doubt about it.
So then we moved to the 6th round, and they drafted tight end Caden Smith. I like his size too. 6'5", 255 pounds. He had a 4.92 40 time. So he's not Vernon Davis fast. But what they like about him is he's a good receiver. He caught 70 passes for 1,049 yards and 7 touchdowns in his 2 seasons. But it's his blocking that really set him apart. So they analysts felt that he was maybe the most complete tight end in this draft. There was not a lot of great tight ends in this draft, a couple of really good ones, but they felt that he was the most complete because of his blocking. So I predict that he'll be the number 2 tight end. I love his size at 6'5". That's a potential red zone threat. So you look at the weapons that the 49ers have brought in. You got 6'5" Jalen Hurd. You got another 6'5" tight end. You got George Kittle in the red zone. You've got slot receiver Trent Taylor for the red zone. Goodwin can play in the red zone. Debo is going to be really good in the red zone. So you've got some real weapons plus all the running backs. So I see the red zone offense not being a liability as it has been for the last 5 years.
Right, and with his size, Jalen Hurd play a little tight end, but this kid right here with his size, I see the possibility of him being moved around like Gronk in New England.
Sure.
You put him out there and create a mixed match, man, you see people can't stop Gronk right now, But the thing is we would be so dangerous because Kittle can do that. This kid can do that. So you begin to see when you look at position by position, you start looking at what Lynch and what Kyle Shanahan is looking for in each position. It has a theme. Interesting, to see what they're doing.
Yeah, you could hear they were talking about a little bit of the theme. The theme is speed and power. Kyle Shanahan, it's no secret, the guy loves speed. They had that in Atlanta. And you can see the kind of roster that they're building in San Francisco. So I think Caden Smith's a good addition, especially in the red zone. Hopefully he'll be exactly what they drafted him for. So the other 6th round pick, offensive tackle, Justin Skule, 6'7", 317 pounds. And what they like about him is he's a dependable tackle who can play both left tackle and right tackle. So he should be a valuable backup in the short term behind rookie sensation Mike McGlinchey. I felt he was fantastic last year, especially given the situation. And then you've still got Joe Staley at left tackle.
Absolutely. Can't have enough depth. I think the offensive line really did a great job solidifying themselves as a great, on the verge of being a great starting offensive line. Now, all they need to do is bring in guys similar to what they've got, learn from those guys in front of them, and be solid backups if needed.
Exactly. So I felt like this was a good pick. This is what they needed to do in the draft. They needed to get guys that can be valuable backups and bring competition. So right now, the biggest thing that they'll be looking at is guard. They did bring in an undrafted free agent at guard. So we'll see if Joshua Garnett can step up. He's still in the mix. They did announce today that they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option, so he can still make the team next year, but he's got to have to really prove himself. So hopefully Joshua Garnett can step up, and then they still got Mike Person, Laken Tomlinson, who I thought had pretty good years last year. All 5 starters played together the whole year last year, except, with the exception of center Weston Richburg. If Richburg comes back healthy, this offensive line should be really good. If he's not quite healthy, then they're going to really have to take a look at addressing that center position next year.
Yeah, and one thing I love working with you, man, is, there's positions that we all have our skills in evaluating and assessing. But, boy, you got that offensive line down. I mean, hey, you keep giving.
That's what we all work for, right?
Hey, man, I tell you what, you keep giving that kind of assessment, which I mean, really, I love having you as a partner, man. The 49ers start hearing it, man. Mike Mayock, hey, man, you might be the next. The Raiders took him. Hey, the Raiders took him. You know what? I had never had any front office experience, man. But at the end of the day, it's all about talent. Hey, it's all about talent evaluation. And if you can do it, and succeed at it, then you know what? Higher power starts seeing and listening to, things that you say. But at the end of the day, we got a great show. And you just keep doing what you're doing, man, because everything that usually is said, or at least the majority of it, comes to fruition. And if that continues to happen, and man, the 49ers will find themselves, back in that NFC Championship game, and hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, I really think they've got a real shot. I think they're going to be highly competitive this year. We got one more draft pick, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. But I really see this roster as a complete roster. Right now, the biggest question mark is the safety position. We're going to have to that's going to be, under some scrutiny. There's no question. Corners have to be better than last year. But beyond that, it's looking like a complete roster. And then, we talked about corners in their last pick near the end of the 6th round. They drafted corner Tim Harris. It's a name,
ironic
name out of the past there. Never really thought of Tim Harris as a cornerback back in the day.
Exactly.
But this is a different Tim Harris.
Yeah. Of course, those 49er people out there, they know what we're talking about. Tim Harris, the great defensive end that we had, back in our day, Super Bowl year, man. And he's still out there in the Bay Area.
Yes, he is.
So yeah, Tim Harris is etched in 49er history. So that's what my partner's talking about.
He's got his 6 shooters every time they brought him out. They paid, if I remember right, the Carmen Policy paid him by the sack, and boy, did he come out and get sacks in the postseason.
He really did. It paid off. They knew what they were doing. They gave him a chance to earn his money, and you know what? I respect them for that.
But so cornerback Tim Harris in the 6th round, 6'2", 197 pounds. He's had some injuries. It's probably why he fell to near the end of the draft. He had 109 tackles and 4 picks in his college career. They bring him in for special teams and depth. This is a guy who's probably going to be learning behind, Sherman and Verrett and even Witherspoon. But hopefully he can showcase some of his talents on special teams and slide into some kind of a role in a couple of years.
Yeah, and you can't buy 6'2", 197.
No, it's good size. Got good
size, and you just look back at. He was one of the most highly touted high school prospects coming out. But then once he got to the Power 5 Virginia, which says a lot. Unfortunately, he had some injury issues, but and played, had an exempt year because he got a 6th year. But again, if he meets his potential, one, he'll be a great special teams player, as you said, and might be a tremendous backup, in that secondary.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I want to see, ideally this year, we want to see Richard Sherman continue to play like he did last year, but be even more healthy than last year. I thought Sherman was terrific. They didn't throw on him for a reason, and he only gave up a few receptions. And sometimes people go, well, he gave up a few receptions. Well, come on, Dion gave up a few receptions too in '94. He got beat by I believe it was Flipper Anderson against the Rams on a deep ball. Irvin got some pass catches out. You're going to give up some receptions, but Sherman had a good year last year.
Absolutely. You're going to, if you play the game long enough, you're going to get beat. The one thing DBs have to have is a short memory. That is because everybody's going to get a pass completed on them, and you just don't want it to be a touchdown, or a deep ball. But again, you got to have a short memory. You got to recover. So it happens. There's nobody perfect. Quarterback's going to throw interceptions. DB's going to get passes caught on them. Receivers are going to, not catch every ball. It is what it is. A running back's going to drop the ball here and there. We don't want to talk about those negative things, but that's part of the game.
Yeah, I think overall, like we talked about at the beginning, I think this was a B+ draft. It could end up being much better. Obviously, it could take a dip as well if some of the guys aren't what they thought. But I'm really intrigued with those first 3 picks. I really like. I think Deebo Samuel is as close as that they've got to a sure thing. I think Nick Bosa is probably going to be a sure thing. Jalen Hurd could be a really, really interesting player. So I think all these guys will have a role. All of them will make the team, barring injury. And I think they can get contributions from each of these guys.
Yeah, I agree, too. We all want to be optimistic. I also know that, they're going to go into camp with how many we usually go in with?
90.
90. Yeah, that was the number I was thinking. And they're going to come out with about 54. So there are a lot of guys, that we project to make the team that won't make it. You never know. But through, the preseason, we'll start seeing what's going to happen. A lot of it may have to do with injuries or just flat out, incapable of transitioning, to the NFL level. I think Justin Scoyle, even though, he comes from the SEC and, you can always use good offensive backup linemen, but I think he's probably got the longest shot.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
So we'll see what happens, but I'm wishing all of them the best.
Well, there's also a practice squad, so
hey, absolutely.
So some of these guys are probably going to end up on the practice squad. They have 12 undrafted rookie free agents that they brought in. Hopefully, some of those guys can make the practice squad. But remember that first year of John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, and Martin Mayhew's draft in the quote unquote 8th round. They found Matt Breida as an undrafted free agent. So there's diamonds in the rough.
Sure did. Out of Georgia Southern. That's right. That's right.
As you know.
Yep.
So in the coming weeks, we'll be looking to talk about mini camp and the OTAs a little bit, and then we'll be sliding into training camp before you know it. So we will be doing shows here and there throughout the off season and looking to talk more 49ers football until the regular season kicks off in September.
Yep, looking forward to getting together again and giving the 49er faithful some good information material, on what's going on, and get this 2019 season off and rolling.
Well, absolutely. So we're going to sign off for tonight. We want to thank everybody for listening. Please go out to thegruelingtruth.com. It's .com now, and go and check out articles, different podcasts, whatever you like. Even besides football, we cover all kinds of sports. So be sure to go out to thegruelingtruth.com for articles and podcasts. And so we want to thank everybody for listening to the 49ers Weekly Show. I want to thank Dexter Carter for being here. This is my goodness, is this year number 5?
Year number 5.
Oh man, that is amazing.
That's amazing.
So we are definitely looking forward to doing year number 5 and getting back at 49er football, and we cannot wait for this season to start.
Absolutely. So you guys have a great time between now and the next time, we air the show, and we hope you enjoy this one.
Well, definitely thanks everyone for listening. And so we will catch you next time on the 49ers Weekly Show. I'm Matt Andruscavage for Dexter Carter. You've been listening to the 49ers Weekly on the Grueling Truth Radio Network, where the legends speak.